Good evening, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Gugulethu Mfuphi, and I'm once again delighted to be your host for one of the most prestigious and highly anticipated events where we recognize those JSE-listed enterprises that have shown stamina and resilience despite the pandemic challenges and continue to buoy South Africa's economy. While South Africa's leading and largest business publication has assembled you all virtually, the leaders of industry, the economic giants, in honor of the winners of the Sunday Times Top 100 Companies. To our welcome guests, thank you once again for embracing the online version of these awards. But truth be told, we've all grown quite accustomed to all things digital and virtual in the last 18 months. We'd like to take this opportunity to thank our partner BCX, who are changing the way business is conducted in South Africa through constant disruptive innovation. Known for its in-depth investigative journalism and analysis, the Sunday Times felt it necessary to recognize and award listed companies which have realized exceptional returns for their shareholders over an extended period of time. And so, the Sunday Times Top 100 Companies Awards began. Well, as we look to commence this year's award ceremony, it's now my great pleasure to introduce Sthembiso Msomi, editor of the Sunday Times.
Thank you, Kuku. It is a great pleasure to welcome you to another year of the Sunday Times Top 100 Companies Awards, featured by our long-standing partner, BCX. For more than 2 decades, the Sunday Times has celebrated the success of South African businesses listed on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange based on their performance over the last 5-year period. It's an event that we continue to celebrate from a distance amidst the ongoing pandemic. When President Ramaphosa announced 3 weeks of national lockdown at the end of March last year, few would have guessed that we'd still be socially distancing tonight. Fewer will even have believed that we'd see the rollout of effective vaccinations in such a short space of time, if only people would get vaccinated. 2021 has been a year of wins and losses. It's been a year of sacrifice and sadness. It's been a year of corruption and exposure. But it's also been a year of resilience and innovation. Tonight, we look back on a year marked by the global pandemic and politically motivated looting and destruction at a level that felt so real and frightening. We've seen a health minister devastate national morale with his involvement in corruption, a former president incarcerated temporarily, a current president committed to a green economy, while one of his ministers remains determined to pump money into coal, even when banks and investors have announced they are pulling the plug on financial support. Our country remains a conundrum. And yet, despite all the uncertainty and volatility, there are still those that believe in South Africa. They keep people in jobs, keep shareholders invested. They work exhaustively to keep our economy alive. Tonight, we celebrate each of those businesses who find themselves in this prestigious Sunday Times Top 100 Companies list. Thanks for believing. And back to you, Kuku.
Thank you, Sthembiso. I couldn't agree with you more. While despite all the uncertainty and volatility, there are still those who believe in South Africa, and we thank them for continuing to drive our economy. One such leader is our next speaker. Please join me in welcoming Jonas Bogoshi, CEO of BCX.
Thank you very much, Gugulethu. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Let me take this opportunity to welcome you all to the Sunday Times Top 100 Companies event. It is an honor for us as BCX to be part of this event, and we have been supporting it now for the 4th year in a row. We're really honored to be part of this event. Normally we talk about BCX, about who we are and what we do, but I would like to talk about the context of BCX in terms of what kind of impact we have on society and what role we play in South Africa. So we are a ICT system integrator focusing primarily on large enterprises. And if you ask me, what do we do? As an example, I will say we deepen democracy. So we provide and support the systems that the IEC depends on to run the elections. We fuel the economy. So more than 50% of the times when you go to a service station, we provide the systems that are responsible for dispensing of the fuel, managing of the wet stock, and also enabling you to do digital payment. We keep South Africa healthy. More than 50% of the time, when you go to a pharmacy, the systems that they use to dispense medication, that they use to communicate with a medical aid for claiming, or even to manage their stock for their pharmacies, we provide those systems. We are core to the backbone of the retail industry in South Africa. We enable over 170 million transactions per month. So that is BCX. Over the last few years, our industry has gone through a tremendous transformation. Our traditional products and services have become commodity almost overnight. We have felt that as BCX, and the industry in South Africa has felt that. Part of what is driving this rapid commoditization of products and services is because the consumers out there are changing their consumption behaviors. So consumers are looking for choice. They want to be treated special as individuals. They want a much better way of communicating with their suppliers. And as a result, our enterprise customers are shifting their investments from traditional products and services and shifting that investment to systems that will allow them to understand the customers better, have some insight, and service them better. And that's why we as an industry are facing this big transformation. It's got a big impact on both revenues and the bottom line of the industry. It is for this reason that we as BCX decided it's important that we innovate. We introduce innovation within the organization from our employees, but also deal with small enterprises to partner with them. It is important that we do that, because if we don't do that, we will become commodity overnight, or even worse, will become irrelevant. And it's in this context that we, 2 years ago, introduced the BCX Digital Innovation Awards. This is not for BCX per se, it's actually for the South African ICT industry. The reason for that is to recognize companies, large, medium, and small, that are using digital transformation to either create new products, new services, or even use this innovation to create new business models. We challenge these companies to show us how they stand out in terms of their own industry or in South Africa as a whole. When we introduced this, it was about 2 years ago. It was before COVID. What COVID has done is to accelerate the need for digital innovation across the world, in our boardrooms, in all big discussions. People are talking about digital transformation. Its adoption has accelerated just after COVID. At the beginning, companies were adopting digital transformation mainly to survive. So how to create, how to be able to provide service during the lockdown. So they were looking at business continuity. But now more and more, they are using digital transformation to create new processes, to create new businesses, etc. So that's where we find ourselves as an industry. Ladies and gentlemen, this year we had incredible number of entries for the awards. In total, we have 61 entries, 45 from SMMEs and 16 from large enterprises. We shortlisted 10 from each category, and the top 20 had to make a presentation to the third season of Digital Warriors. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight I have the pleasure of introducing the winners of the 2021 BCX Digital Innovation Awards.
They were measured, judged, and found worthy. Ladies and gentlemen, we've reached that point in the competition where we tell you who our winning contestants are. Five judges, 2 categories. 20 shortlisted challengers pitching for the top spot in Season 3 of the BCX Digital Innovation Awards. Hi, South Africa. The BCX Digital Innovation Awards aimed to recognize digital innovation excellence in South African businesses. This year, we received an amazing 61 entries, and I am proud to announce this year's winners in the SME and corporate category. The 2021 SME category. In third place, Lars Fuel, Dirk Hoekert, directors, co-founders, and joint CEOs of Pargo for their Pargo Pickup Points innovation. In second place, Newo Hutiri, managing director of Technovera for the Pelebox Smart Locker innovation. In first place, the winner of the SME category is Marlies Holthausen, founder and CEO of 911 Response 24 for the Response 24 Leaders in First Responder and On-Demand Service Technology. In the 2021 corporate category. In third place, Old Mutual Limited for their innovation SME Go. In second place, Old Mutual Limited for their innovation Insure. The winner of the BCX Digital Innovation Awards corporate category is RTT Logistics for their innovation RTT On Demand. All entries received were of excellent quality and worthy of recognition. We would like to thank you for your efforts to enter this year's awards and wish you every success in your future business endeavors. See you at the 2022 BCX Digital Innovation Awards.
Great. Congratulations to the winners this evening. Let this be an inspiration to SMEs and large enterprises to innovate side by side as they solve both business and societal challenges. Thank you very much. Congratulations. Back to you, Gugu. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jonas. And again, we echo your sentiments in extending a hearty congratulations to the Digital Innovation Award winners. Well, speaking of all things innovation and digital, our next speaker couldn't be with us here this evening, but the power of all things technology has brought him to us virtually. Please welcome one of the world's most highly regarded thought leaders on entrepreneurship, digitalization, and innovation, as well as the author of 5 best-selling business books, Peter Hinson. Peter, it's over to you.
Hi, my name is Peter Hinson, and I'm really pleased to be here and to be invited to do a keynote by the Sunday Times Top 100 Companies in South Africa. I wish I could have been there in person, but with travel and COVID and restrictions being what they are, not so easy. But I do have to say I'm really pleased that BCX is the top sponsor of this event. And the reason being is that I think we're probably kindred spirits. I mean, I am a technologist at heart. I always look at the world through a lens of technology, and I really believe that technology has the potential to really build a better future. I really believe that technology has tremendous leverage potential. And that's exactly what I want to talk about in a world that is changing faster than ever before, a world that I started calling the never normal. Now, this is a play on words on a book that I wrote exactly 10 years ago, which was called The New Normal. And it talked about the world of technology, the world of innovation, the world of digital. And what I predicted 10 years ago is that digital would just stop being special and become normal. And it wasn't the case in the past. I love this illustration. This is an advertisement dating back from 1980 when I was a young boy. And it was in an advertisement that my father had. And I actually still remember that. I actually framed it and it hangs in my office. And it was advertising a 10 megabyte hard disk for the wonderful price of $3,495 US. You can probably imagine what a fortune that was way back then. But 10 megabytes, I mean, every picture you take with your smartphone today is more than that entire hard disk. And the problem often isn't technology. The problem is actually users. I mean, I love this little video that shows that in the past, users didn't know how to use technology. They were often afraid to use technology. And when they tried to use technology, it often had disastrous consequences as a result. Now, I mean, we can be sorry for the guy, but that was really the old normal. But we now live in the new normal. A new normal where we've seen an S-curve like this, where in the beginning technology is, special, and then it actually transitions into something that is just absolutely normal. I love this illustration back in 2016 in the US presidential elections when everybody wanted to take a selfie with Hillary Clinton. But in 2020, the Democratic convention was actually a digital-only, a virtual, online-only event. And then you have to say, thank God we had the new normal in that very strange episode of the last 18 months. Something that seemed so far away and strange and distant changed all of our lives. And I'm a bit of a sci-fi enthusiast. It really reminded me of one of my favorite sci-fi movies of the last century, The Day the Earth Stood Still. And what we encountered really wasn't a day, wasn't a week, wasn't a quarter. It was almost more than a year that we saw things and scenes that we never thought we would ever see in our lifetime. And it was a collective displacement. It happened almost simultaneously all over the world, in the US, in Africa, in Asia, in Europe. And for almost every organization, it was a little bit of a stress test. After 10 years of digital becoming normal, we had to figure out if we could still survive in a world where technology really was our only option. I don't know how you survived lockdown, but in our house with 2 teenage kids, there was a perfect correlation between the quality of the Wi-Fi signal in our house and my appreciation as a father. If there was just a tiny little hiccup in their YouTube or TikTok stream, they openly started to question at the dinner table if I ever got a degree in computer science. And it wasn't just lockdown. In almost every exit scenario, we saw that technology was playing an ever-increasing role into our lives. I love this example of a robot dog in Singapore patrolling a park to see if people were actually respecting social distancing. Who could have imagined that just 18 months ago? But we now live in a world where digital is normal. Most companies pass the stress test, but what is fascinating is that many companies started to realize that digital technology innovation wasn't just a cherry on the cake, it can actually be a big part of the cake. As we're now in a situation where we probably see the end of the tunnel, I think we have a little bit of a red pill, blue pill moment here. Some people get excited about the new normal and the next new normal, and some people are really getting a little homesick for the old normal. Especially now, in this BCAC changeover, before and after Corona, the vaccines are starting to kick in all around the world, and some people are really homesick for the old normal. Well, first of all, it might take a little longer than we think. And second of all, the most fundamental question is, does the old normal actually exist? And that's why I'm fascinated by these S-curves. I had a chance to study with Carlota Perez, one of the greatest economic thinkers of our times, an amazing Argentinian economist who wrote a brilliant book called Technological Revolutions and Financial Capital. And she describes these S-curves in great detail. And she says this is nothing new. I mean, we've seen this over and over again, whether this is the Industrial Revolution or steam and railways or mass production or now information technology. It's the same type of S-curve. Something is strange, we don't understand it, then it really starts to take off, and then it becomes normal. But these cycles used to take 20, 30 years to materialize. The big difference is we're used to change, but it's now happening at a faster and faster pace. And that means that we can actually see some radical changes, disruption, if you will. And that brings me to my second favorite economist in the world. I didn't have a chance to study with him because he's long dead. But Joseph Schumpeter was an Austrian economist who was kind of a strange guy. He wanted to be the most influential economist in the world. He wanted to be the greatest horseman in Austria, and he wanted to be the greatest lover in Vienna. And on his deathbed, he lamented the fact that he could only realize 2 of his life goals because there were a lot of great horsemen in Austria, according to him. But he's the one who came up with the concept of creative destruction. When we see that disruption is bringing us something new, but we don't really know how to position it vis-a-vis the old. And that's why I get excited, because if you ask me what the next new normal is going to be, I think it's a combination of things, a combination of a number of shocks. Look at the world of technology. It's not because digital is normal that it's done, far from it. We're going to see a combination of new technologies. Look at things like virtual augmented reality, the real power of analytics and big data, the advent of artificial intelligence and massive automation. That is a powerful cocktail, which in the next decade is going to give us even more technological seismic shocks. But that's not it. We're in the middle of a biological seismic shock that is clearly far from over. But think about the big concern. Before the pandemic, it was the environment. Think about ecological seismic shocks. This is a scene from Blade Runner 2049. Love the movie. Look at the orange sky. But this is San Francisco last summer after the forest fires. Many of my friends who live there sent me pictures like this. What a strange year we've had. In the beginning, we had Texas freezing over, collapsing the power grid in one of the most important states in the United States with total, devastating economic and personal consequences. A little bit later in the US, we had record-breaking heat waves that were unseen. And I live in Europe, where we've had massive flooding over this summer. So I believe that these ecological seismic shocks might be something that we have to take into account and remember the public discontent about that. That public discontent may be something that we have to take even more seriously. Think about even social seismic shocks. And then if you look at the bigger picture, the geopolitics, I would probably say we've never been in a more unstable period over the last 70 years. And we saw a very strange example of that just very, very recently. But fundamentally, what we've seen is that the trade war between the US and China has now escalated into a full-blown technological Cold War. The world is polarizing in a technology stack that is a Western technology stack and an Eastern technology stack. And if you're in Africa or I'm in Europe, we're smack in the middle of that. The world isn't getting more orderly, it's getting more disorderly. And I think that we shouldn't be afraid of that. On the contrary, I think this is a tremendous opportunity to see the advantages of that. Because every single one of those seismic shocks actually triggers things. It sets things in motion. It creates systemic shifts. Look at consumer behavior. This was already greatly altered as a result of digital becoming normal. We can now observe and analyze consumers better than ever before. And then COVID came along and just accelerated the acceleration in consumer behavior. Same thing in work dynamics. But more fundamentally, the way we make money, our business and operating models, will probably be more volatile going forward. Same with capacity and resources. How many people and resources do we need to implement our strategy? But also opportunities to maybe fundamentally rethink the environment and sustainability. So I get excited by this. But it will be incredibly foolish to hope that we're going to go back to the old normal. As a matter of fact, I think we're getting into the never normal. A strange world. A world where little things can have huge global consequences, whether that is in the physical world or in the financial world. The last couple of years, it was fashionable to talk about these 4 words, VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. I don't like these words, but it would be incredibly naive to hope that we're going to go back to a world of stability, uncertainty, simplicity, and clarity. The man passed away this summer, but he was the one who immortalized the concept of the unknown unknowns. And that's exactly what we're getting into, a world of constant change and opportunity, which I call the never normal. So let's dig a little deeper into that. What are some of the characteristics? There's 4 I want to mention: nonlinear, superfluid, hyperconnected, and ultra speed. So what does that mean? When you look at the fluidity that we now see in society, in business, the pandemic was a really good way to illustrate that. All of a sudden, many people had to work remotely or work from home. If we went back to the office, it wasn't the same, and Lord, it wasn't easy. I love this Fisher-Price work-from-home playset, including video conference material, crying babies, and wine bottles. Well, maybe it wasn't that bad, but it wasn't easy. And it was part of how a society would deal with this bubble economy all of a sudden. This is the Berliner Philharmonic. Try to be profitable in a setting like this. But I love this Dutch example where Dutch restaurant owners put greenhouses in front of their restaurants for people to enjoy a corona-proof meal. And that shows the creative agility. And I think Hawking nailed it when he says, intelligence is the ability to adapt to change. And that's what we'll need in an increasingly fluid society. The second characteristic is we probably should look outside of our normal field of vision. I mean, linear just isn't enough. Just before the pandemic, we had Sony that makes televisions that says, we're going to build a car. How difficult can it be? A car is just a bunch of connected screens on 4 wheels. This is a TV company that is building a car. And at the same time, Toyota, a car manufacturer, said we're building this new city in Japan called the Woven City, our vision of mobility of the future, and cars don't even function. I mean, how crazy is that? Look at the world of technology. Amazon, that I still remember as, an online platform to sell books and CDs, is now the biggest cloud provider in the world of technology. My favorite example is in China. I mean, Ping An, the largest insurance company in China, is reinventing itself in healthcare and even mobile healthcare. Nobody stays in their swimming lane. And that means that we have to be open for that connectivity because, as a third characteristic, we don't live in a digital age. We live in an age of networks. We live in a hyper-connected world where everything is connected to everything. And if we can capture the value of that information that flows onto the networks, we can really leverage the potential of the never normal. The fourth is that this means that the world is actually moving faster than ever before, and the pandemic was a pretty good way to illustrate that. We had winners and losers, as we'll probably see in the top 100 as well. But what is fascinating here is that it was really, as Dickens would say, the best of times and the worst of times at the same time. This is the craziest economic graph of the pandemic. This is the market value of Zoom compared to the market value of 7 of the largest airlines added up. How incredibly crazy is that? Zoom was worth more than 7 of the largest airlines added up. And the reason is very simple. We stopped flying. This is in Europe, air patterns in 2019 and 2020. And if we stop flying, we see the ripple effect of a connected economy. We stop flying, we don't need as many planes, so Airbus scraps 15,000 jobs. They order less engines, well, Rolls-Royce has to scrap 9,000 jobs. We stop flying, we don't need rental cars, Hertz goes out of business. But then we saw the best of times. We massively started to shop online. It was a true acceleration of sorts, an enormous shift in consumer behavior, an enormous boost in e-commerce, and an enormous boost in logistics. And there you see the characteristics of that never normal playing out. Non-linear, super-fluid, hyper-connected, and ultra-speed. And I get excited by that. But I'm sure that you're thinking, but what does it mean for me? What does it mean for my organization? What does it mean for my company? What does it mean for my employees? And I believe this is something that we fundamentally have to understand. If you look at the world that is increasingly non-linear, we're going to need a flux mindset to be open-minded to pick up the ideas. In a world that is moving faster than ever before, it means that the skills we have are actually, their shelf life is getting shorter and shorter. And it means as a company that the reskilling we have to do of our employees is probably going to have to really increase. In a world where digital became normal and it's a networked, hyper-connected world, maybe we have to think about skills beyond digital. And what it really means is we're going to have to be ultra flexible and adaptable. Now, as I said, I get excited about this. But the big question for you is, when do you have to actually take it seriously? When do you have to move? And I'm not going to bore you with too much theory on this wonderful occasion, but just this one, the theory of optionality. This is the cycle of life. Whatever you do, a product, a company, a brand, life itself, it follows this pattern. You start, you grow, you peak, you decline, and then it's over. And we all know that if you wait until the very last moment to think about what's next, well, that's too late. Actually, even when you're going down, that's not going to help you anymore. And I would argue that in the old normal, you could wait until you're at your peak to reinvent yourself. Now you have to start thinking about reinvention the moment that you're doing very well. Nothing new. Peter Drucker said it a long time ago. The greatest danger in times of turbulence is not the turbulence, but to act with yesterday's logic. So you have to think, if we're going to enter a decade of the never normal with more technology disruption, more changes in consumer behavior, more volatility in markets, and more volatility in operating models, how are you going to cope with this? How are you going to organize yourselves for the never normal? Now, I get excited by technology, but I do have to say there is a gap between what is real and what is possible. I was in Denmark a while ago. This is a picture from a Lego factory. I mean, if you pick up a box of Legos in a toy store, you're the first human hands to touch it. Everything is automated. But maybe our hype of automation has gone too far. The last couple of years, it was autonomous this, autonomous that, self-driving this. Even John Deere said putting a farmer on a tractor, how incredibly old school is that? But I don't drive a self-driving car. As a matter of fact, I think there's a hangover effect. I love what Peter Thiel said. We wanted flying cars and we got 140 characters. When Google DeepMind, the AI of Google, beat the best Go player 5 years ago, I thought, wow, that's it. This changes everything. But we've all had it in the last 18 months. You look for something online, you find a product you want, you buy it, it gets delivered to your house, and for the next 3 weeks you get advertisements for the stuff you already bought. That's not artificial intelligence, that's colossal stupidity. Every conference we went to before the pandemic, we saw the famous Boston Dynamics robots doing all sorts of tricks and parkours and even dancing. But this is the latest version of Boston Dynamics. It's not dancing anymore, it's stacking boxes. And I think that's the techno-realism we're going to need in the never normal. I mean, maybe we have to put even more premium on the human element. The pandemic deprived us from a lot of things that we liked. We put on a brave face in front of our Zoom and team meetings, but the reality is that some of our lives were pretty messed up in a certain moment in time. Even the CEO of Microsoft, Satya Nadella, said, too much screen time, probably not good for your mental health. So how are we going to rebalance post-pandemic that work and life? Because I really believe the never normal is going to hit us. But how do we take that and at the same time focus on the human, with our customers, with our employees? How do we balance that? And make no mistake, we're going to have a wild ride. We're going to see what I call Hemingway patterns. Hemingway is a curious story because he was the most famous writer of his time, but he actually went bankrupt. Hemingway was declared personal bankrupt. And when he went bankrupt, the journalist went up and said, Mr. Hemingway, how did you go bankrupt? And he said, well, in two ways. Gradually and then suddenly. Very, very slowly and then boom. And I think those are the Hemingway patterns of the never normal. And then you have to ask yourself, you as a company, you as a leader of an organization, how are you thinking about the future? And we saw that the pandemic actually showed us that many of the mechanisms just didn't work anymore. I mean, the budget 2020, what a joke that was. How can we reinvent ourselves for these roller coaster rides of the never normal? We're going to have to, on the one hand, focus on being robust, the ability to keep operating, even in times of difficulty. And you've all proven in the last 18 months you were doing that. But more important, we're going to have to show resilience. How can we bounce back and even bounce forward to really take advantage of these opportunities in that roller coaster ride? And that brings me to the very heart of the matter. I finished a book which was called The Phoenix and the Unicorn. And it talks about how traditional companies can reinvent themselves. Because the last 10 years, we spent a lot of time talking about the unicorns. Every conference you went to, it was Uber this and Airbnb. And you could see people thinking, that's really nice, but we're a mining company. We're not Airbnb. We're not Uber. Honestly, even those companies suffered in the pandemic. But I think after a decade of applauding the unicorns, it's now time for the phoenixes. I mean, the potential to transform traditional organizations. And I'm sure there's a lot of people listening who are potential phoenixes. I mean, I looked at the top 100. Many of those companies are in traditional sectors, and I think capable of reinventing themselves. Look at the world of retail. Retail is being transformed in front of our very eyes, and not because of technology. Well, it's really because of consumers, and especially the next generation. The Atlantic talks about the touchscreen generation. This is my favorite Santa Claus letter of a young girl who writes, "Dear Santa, how are you? I'm good. Here is what I want for Christmas." And then the Amazon URL of what that child wants to have under the Christmas tree. And that's why Amazon is the big fat unicorn. But a couple of years ago, I had a chance to go to the other side. In the US, Walmart is the biggest traditional retailer, 2.5 million employees, and they're now head-to-head competing with Amazon. In the US, you can use this. It's the Walmart in-home shopping app. You buy something on the app, a Walmart associate comes to your house in 30 minutes, could unlock your door, smart garage door, and put the stuff inside. And what I love is a feature that if you need things to be refrigerated, they can actually stock your refrigerator for you, and you can follow everything on the app because there's a camera and connectivity. This is a company that is reinventing itself. And of course, the difficulty is it's a big boat to change. The number one challenge is not technology, but the number one challenge is actually people. Walmart is now retraining 1 million of its employees, reskilling 1 million employees to take advantage of that never normal. And that's why it's more difficult to do a phoenix than a unicorn, but it's ultimately more rewarding. So what is the secret recipe? The secret recipe is we need a keen eye on what I call the day after tomorrow. The day after tomorrow basically is an idea that if we want to keep reinventing ourselves, we're going to have to overcome that problem that we don't really understand what the never normal is. So think about this. You as a leader, how much time do you spend on today, tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow? Many people tell me, 70-20-10. Today is the hundreds of emails you get and the dozens of Zoom calls. Tomorrow is next year's budget. And then there's the day after tomorrow. New ideas, concepts, business models, technologies that could change the rule of the game. It's not often 70-20-10, but most companies it's 93-7-0. And the problem is value. Yes, today is important. Tomorrow even more so. But the day after tomorrow is crucial if you want to reinvent yourself for the never normal. Unfortunately, for some companies, this is not the full picture. Some of you even have that big, horrible red square with negative energy, which we label as the shit of yesterday. How can we rebalance what we do and focus more on the day after tomorrow and less on cleaning up the mess of the past? I love this wonderful painting by René Magritte, a famous Belgian surrealist painter. And he uses this metaphor of how can we interpret the day after tomorrow, the egg, and figure out what that bird is going to be. I get really excited by this. But if you want to be the number one in the top 100 next year, what do you have to do? Well, I honestly believe that there's 3 elements to think about. One is strategy. How do you build strategy for a world that is constantly changing? How do you build strategy for the never normal? Well, I believe the only way to do it is to be bold on the vision and then flexible on the details. I think that should be a guiding way to look at strategic thinking in a world that is increasingly volatile. 1 strategy, but 2 structure. You also have to organize for the never normal. Who in your company is picking up the signals of the day after tomorrow? Where do you experiment and reduce the sauce? I came up with the concept of the hourglass model. We all know what an hourglass looks like. The top of the hourglass, that's the wide lens that really is our sensors for the day after tomorrow. This is where we pick up the sensing of the day after normal. And then we have to reduce the sauce. We have to experiment. This part is the sense and try. And then it falls into the bottom half of the hourglass. This is where we run and scale and focus on the bottom line. But think about this in your company. Who is actually responsible for the sense and try? And how do you make sure that it falls into the run and scale? How do you combine the 0 to 1 with the 1 to n? And of course, this makes a real reflection on us as human beings, on people. Some of you really like being a soldier. You love to work in the bottom part of the hourglass, but some people are artists. They see things that other people don't. How do you combine and structure the artist and the soldier in your organization? Strategy, structure, but maybe the most important is culture, mindset. I don't think it's a technology race, but I do believe that companies who have the right mindset, they're going to be the winners. I came up with something called vaccine. Well, the pandemic inspired me. It's an incorrectly spelled word, but the V is for velocity. The world's moving faster. We will have to move faster. I love this quote from Mario Andretti. If everything seems under control, you're just not going fast enough. For me, last year it was that hospital in Wuhan being built in 10 days. 10 days! I honestly live in a country where we couldn't do that in 10 days. We couldn't do it in 10 months. It would take us 10 years. But the world is moving faster. But more important than raw speed is the A for agility. I love the analogy of the whitewater kayaker. I mean, if you look at it, the first time you see it, you think, I'm going to die. This is horrible. The water's going to kill me. The rocks are going to crush me. But if you actually learn how to leverage the power of the water, you can use the power of the water to actually become more agile and survive. Speed, agility, the C is for creativity. We will have to unlock the creative potential. And the reason is innovation. Innovation is no longer a luxury. It's product and market and service and probably even model innovation, maybe all at the same time. Look at Disney reinventing itself for the never normal in the last 18 months into a full-blown competitor to Netflix. The N is for networking. It's about realizing that this is not the digital age, but the age of networks, of ecosystems and platforms. But the most important is the last one, the E for experimentation. How do you build in the psychological safety in your companies to try and take risks? And I really believe that if you want to lower the cost, if you want to increase innovation, you're going to have to lower the cost of failure. You, unfortunately, as leaders, can't wait until the final HBR article, and implement 7 steps. It's no longer just about lessons learned. It's about lessons learning. How can you reinvent yourself and take risks as you go along? And that brings me to my conclusion. In the end, technology and innovation, strategy, but it's about people. How do we think about skills and minds and hearts? Skill set? I honestly believe if you look at the never normal and what that means in terms of challenges, we're going to put reskilling at the top priority for any organization out there. But it's more than skills. It's mindset, maybe even more. How do we build an organization where people are passionately curious about the day after tomorrow, endlessly open-minded to discover what the day after tomorrow could be, forcefully resilient and vigorously creative, if we do want to interpret the egg and figure out what that bird is going to be? Skill set, mindset, but in the end, heart set. How do we convince a next generation to join us if we can't be vocal about what we stand for and what we want to achieve? Skills, minds, and hearts. I think it's the only way to reinvent ourselves and become a phoenix for the never normal. The good thing is, you can still do something about it. And I get truly inspired by that never normal. But I'm sure maybe some of you or some of your colleagues might still be a little hesitant. Maybe you don't see the real advantages of all these wonderful new opportunities that are out there. But I do believe the timing is now, and we are going to have to turn this all the way up to 11. I fundamentally believe the future is already here. We just have to discover it. And if you want to reinvent yourself, let me end with my favorite quote from Maya Angelou. If you're always trying to be normal, you will never know how truly amazing you can be. It was wonderful to spend some time with you. Congratulations to everyone on the top 100. And of course, congratulations to the winners. I really enjoyed spending some time with you. And I really wish you the very, very best in the never normal.
Thank you so much, Peter, for that refreshing presentation. I think we can all agree that there are many exciting opportunities to come in the new never normal. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin with the Sunday Times Top 100 Companies Lifetime Achiever and Business Leader of the Year Awards. The Sunday Times Lifetime Achiever recognizes an individual that consistently contributes to the South African economy. This year's Lifetime Achiever started as a taxi driver and became one of South Africa's most respected business leaders. He was both a pioneer and a disruptor. He helped break down the walls between black and white business as a highly successful entrepreneur, chair of Business Leadership South Africa, president of Business Unity South Africa, and leader of the CEO Initiative. Busisiwe Mavuso, CEO of BLSA, described him as a formidable leader, very well respected for his business acumen and independent leadership. It was under his leadership as chair of BLSA that big business took the firm decision to publicly denounce the state capture project and make a solid pledge towards ethical leadership, protecting our key institutions and working collaboratively with government towards building a capable state. And the Sunday Times Lifetime Achiever of the year 2021 is awarded to none other than the late Mr. Jabu Mabuza.
My name is Lwazi Mabuza. I'm the late Dr. Mabuza's firstborn son. My father's stories that come from my grandparents and people that were around him, all entertaining. He was smart, witty, always jolly, he had lots of friends, and the obvious, always got in trouble. Always. Dad was naughty. But the smarts in him got him out of trouble. So one of the things that we heard from him actually and my grandparents was him getting expelled from school when he was much younger. And that was because part of the mafia type of gang, but it was all just to protect others, the girls from getting hit on by guys from other schools. But nothing really serious, he was just naughty.
So the thing about Jabu was that in the first place, he was totally fearless. I mean, any deal could be done. He pursued things with a vigor and enthusiasm that was infectious in the company. Over the years, Jabu joined in the early 90s when what was then the Southern Sun Hotel Group was just coming out of what was a stage of bankruptcy, and the new casino dispensation was opening up. And the CEO at the time, Ron Stringfellow, went to breweries and said that the Southern Sun wanted to pursue this new casino business, and he needed two things. He needed 5 billion rand in funding, and he needed Jabu. And that's how Jabu came across to what was Southern Sun, and was part of the founding team to develop these new casinos and to bid for licenses and so on. And that legacy will stay, I think, for decades. It was just one of the most exciting times, and the pursuit of licenses and the growth of a brand new business that hadn't existed before then was very much part of what Jabu's legacy was in this group.
Yeah, it was an incredible journey. I mean, it was really an incredible journey. I would not do that journey again without him. Firstly, he gave myself as the group chief executive and my team absolute cover. He was very clear in his mandate. He may not have been a dyed-in-the-wool sort of ICT guy, but once he got what the plot was, he was absolutely relentless in challenging us as a team, but also making sure that we all reach our full potential. And what I mean by some of the, with regards to some of the examples around modernizing telecom, is that at the time, actually, nobody wanted to be associated with telecom, whether to work there or to be a partner of telecom. And he brought, I would probably say, almost singularly, the credibility that the company needed. And with his name and his aura and his shadow, it gave us the space, the time to be able to do a lot of things in order to change the company. He ensured that he put around him a very good and strong board. He had incredible relationships externally. So whoever it is that I wanted to have a chat with, he would be able to put me in front of those people. But also he supported me and my team, even in what would have been awkward conversations. You know, I would kind of ask him to join me when we go to Davos, because I wanted to meet with SAP and Microsoft and all of those guys, and I wanted to have a very difficult conversation with them. And Jabu, I think, knew very little about what SAP does for us or Microsoft does for us. But 5 minutes before the meeting, he would ask me, so what do you really want? And I'd give him bang, bang, bang. These are the things I really want from these chaps. And Jabu would walk into the meeting, actually not even walk into the meeting, he would waltz into the meeting. And then he would lay it out as if he knew everything about what SAP did for us, or he knew everything about what Microsoft did for us. And I think, yeah, I mean, I could go on and on. So he was an incredibly helpful guy, and I think in a lot of ways, he really ensured that we become the company that we are now. And I think he would have been proud actually to see some of the things that he sees at the moment.
It's no secret that my father came from humble beginnings. And he's never wanted the narrative of being a guy who came from a taxi driver to being a business mogul to stand in the way of him having had a good education, because he didn't have that. He was not fortunate to have that. Financial struggles didn't allow him that. But he doesn't want that narrative, because he always says, can you imagine if I did have a good education, how much more I could have achieved? So education was one, and he made it a point that we all had a good education. Another stumbling block in his life was him and a couple of friends started a travel and tourism business that wasn't exactly successful, but part of the stumbling blocks in that were every month one of them was going to earn a salary. When he left that, he then went on obviously to being a taxi driver, and then that went straight to being at Sabta to Fabcos to SAB to Tsogosan, and the rest is history. Everything was a milestone that took him forward, but it was that first failure that got him going forward.
Well, firstly, he was a natural businessman, right? So he didn't get to where he got to because he knew people, because he came from a famous lineage, or because his father or his uncle was so and so. He got to where he got to because he was a good businessman, and he was a self-made guy. Nobody could own Jabu. Nobody could say, I made Jabu. Actually, Jabu was a self-made guy, pulled himself by the bootstraps, and actually made sure that everything that he's come to do and to know, I think he taught himself. Actually, he taught himself. He was fearless as well. Actually, he really was fearless. He's probably one of the most fearless people I've worked with. We've had to make very big calls in the firm, and Jabu never once blinked, right? Never once blinked. Once he got the plot, he could stand behind it. And last but not least, what made him really different as a leader is that he was also empathetic. He had this veneer, I suppose, of being very tough and fearless and brave, but actually, past all of that sort of stuff, actually there was a softie in there, and he could bring all of that stuff to bear.
So the key thing that Jabu and people like Ron Stringfellow and so on that I think are a little bit not recognized always is that they built something totally from scratch. In the early days of the new casino dispensation that came out, you had Sun International was the big gorilla in the room. They had been running the casinos in the homeland environment for years. They had all the data as to where the punters were coming from, what the potential market sizes were. And these guys, led by Ron and Jabu, really developed a brand new business from scratch that just took over the industry. And they were excellent in their site selection. They had a clear vision of what this business could be. And I think that legacy is to this day is something we've built off of. I mean, the hotel business has probably doubled in size over that period, which it wouldn't have been able to do if they hadn't had the success that they did in the casino side of the business. And people take for granted that you've got a fantastic industry like this that probably combined employs some 12,000 people, generates billions in taxes, is a very big part of people's lives. Casinos and the entertainment complexes that surround them are very localized facilities. There's not a lot of tourism that goes to a place like Monte Casino, but everybody that lives in a 25, 30 kilometer radius, it's become a part of their lives. And as it's now gotten to 20 years old, You've had generations that have grown up, and that's where they go to movies, that's where they go out to eat, that's the bird park that they know. And that's a legacy that will stand, I think, for many, many years to come. It's not often that you get to build something completely from scratch, and it's something that Jobo and his family can certainly be very proud of.
Congratulations once again to Jabu Mabuza, a remarkable achievement based on a lifetime commitment. Surely he has inspired many and will continue to do so long after his passing. The Sunday Times Business Leader of the Year recognizes the need to acknowledge and honor those who have made a significant contribution to the South African economy and achieved greatness throughout the previous year. The 2021 Business Leader of the Year is known for being a pioneer. He's a previous lifetime achiever and the current global chief executive of the largest global platform that creates behavior change and financially integrates this behavior into insurance and financial services pricing. Needless to say, the Sunday Times Business Leader of the Year 2021 is awarded to Adrian Gore, the Global Chief Executive of Discovery Group.
The past year was a very, very complex year, obviously. It was profound. I think it was tragic. We were surrounded by death. But I think for Discovery, it was an incredibly important year. Our relevance, our role, protecting people through a pandemic, and then our kind of broader role around kind of helping the country in its response to the vaccine and everything around that was fundamental. I think also the concept of making people healthier and the vitality model really was quite profound during this period. So it's really been kind of a year of, I think, considerable progress, but a year of real tragedy. And I think we are all collectively, as a company, much more resilient and I think much more focused on what we need to do. So a remarkable year, a lot of mixed feelings, but I think we're proud about our role during the year. We've been making the argument that 3 trends really are shaping financial services, technology, the nature of risk being behavioral, in life, in mortality and morbidity risk, and then just the power of corporate purpose, that corporations need to have a purpose. I think in this year, those trends accelerated dramatically, so again, coming to the idea of making people healthier, focusing on healthy lifestyle choices, and the data from COVID showing that, living a healthy life was fundamental in resilience to COVID. So all of those trends kind of were directionally where we thought they would be accelerated. So the model during the year, the business model, the shared value model of Discovery, dramatically accelerated over the year. And I work with our partners globally. At the same time, all of our partners also focused on this concept as well. So if anything, I think the year was difficult, but the business model really, really matured and accelerated. I think the one thing that has to be said, a lot of thinking about, would people drop cover during the year, affordability, lockdowns, all of that stuff happened, and people and businesses had the most difficult time, we know that. But I think maybe now, not counterintuitively, people kept their cover. So we actually saw lapse rates go down. People seeked health cover, seek life insurance cover, and if anything, the business kind of solidified over that period. Obviously, the one thing in the tragedy, I think, over the year was just a massive amount of death claims in South Africa. Just the amount of death, we expect to pay 6 billion in COVID claims over that period. It's remarkable. And it kind of tells the story of the tragedy, I think, of the pandemic. And I think that's the kind of the one underlying focus for us has been to try and make sure people are protected against that death. So again, I'm proud of the role that Discovery's played in being there when people need us, but obviously very difficult times for people. Look, I think the vaccine mandate for us was I think a big step, but I think an entirely consistent step with where we positioned. We see ourselves as an organisation that makes people healthier. We see ourselves as hopefully an exemplar for others to see in the space we're in. And then at the same time, we have considerable data about understanding the vaccine, the side effects, the effect on protection. And I think fundamentally, narrowly in terms of our own people, it's pretty clear we've got to stop people dying. This is not about statistics, and it's about death. And we've seen over 200,000 deaths in the country, so stopping death is critical. Look, I think as a group, we're feeling confident and and good about the business model, concept of making people healthy. And I think all the stuff we've worked at for over decades is really now manifesting. And so I think through this period, there's a strong sense of conviction and belief in that. But I have to say, I think the emotional thing I feel most proud of is just how the organization has made a difference during COVID. I think our role in the vaccination process, I think our role of our teams and our vaccination sites and thousands of our people really working incredibly hard to be at the front line of making sure the vaccination rollout with government is successful. The organisation has been involved very much in this kind of public-private partnership with Business for South Africa and a lot of business leadership in the process. And I think it's one of the kind of high notes of illustrating how the country can work together, public and private. I think credit to government and to the private sector. The rollout has been very successful. I mean, we started the procurement late, and that put us a bit back. But once we got that done and started in May, it rolled out quickly. And who would have thought that the issue would have been hesitancy, not capacity. Our capacity to vaccinate South Africans at a rate that's kind of world-class is there, it's available. Our issue is hesitancy. So I think that the high points for me have been just the role business, I think, has played in this. I think the kind of public-private partnerships that were formed and bridges built. And then, from a discovery perspective, the incredible work that our people have done, especially in Discovery Health, in data analysis, in rolling out vaccine sites, been a remarkable year, and the concept make people healthier, that manifestation of that at that moment, you know what I mean? You got those vaccine sites and see it. It's tangible, it's clear, very, very powerful for us, and I think we'll never be the same. Entrepreneurship is hard. Starting a business is hard, it's not easy. I keep relearning that, but I think some of the advice I would give is, follow the road less traveled, baby. You have to, I think that's a key thing. You've got to find opportunities and gaps that others haven't seen. But I also think important during this time is to build in difficult times. It's counterintuitive, especially now people are down and they think the economy's down and where the opportunities, ironically, the opportunities are in difficult times. When, prices are lower, opportunities are, competitors are often distracted, prices are, or assets are undervalued. That is, I think, the opportunity for entrepreneurs. So it's in difficult times that I think good entrepreneurs make headway. We started in 1990, 1992, during the whole transition to democracy. Similar times of kind of unease, uncertainty. That is a time when opportunities present themselves. I would strongly advise kind of thinking about timing. And then, I know it sounds trite, but just the power of optimism and positive thinking and kind of conviction about what you're doing. Things will be tough. They always are. Nothing is easy. No matter where you are, you've got to just keep focusing on building and knocking on doors and finding a way through. And you've got to have a product that society wants. But if you do, I think the markets are big and I think the opportunities are massive. Listen, to win the award means a lot to me. It's voted on by colleagues and other business leaders. So it really is an incredibly powerful accolade. I value it. I really value it. I'm humbled by it. It's important, I have to say this, that it really is a corporate award for our team. I'm in the front line receiving it. There is no doubt, I think the impact we've had on COVID, on the vaccine, is part of this award, and I certainly hope it is, and that's not of my doing. I think it's a collective doing of the team. So the award is, I think, particularly meaningful during this difficult time, but it's a collective award of the group, and hopefully it shows to our people what we can achieve.
Congratulations, Adrian Gore. An extraordinary accomplishment, especially during what's been a challenging 2 years. Well, we're here tonight to honor and to celebrate the achievement of those companies which made exceptional returns for their shareholders over the last 5 years. Unlike many other corporate rankings, the Sunday Times Top 100 Companies rates entities by the extent to which they've increased the wealth of their shareholders. Now, we consider listed companies on the main board of the JSE. Here's how it works. The Sunday Times Top 100 Companies Awards acknowledge those listed companies that have created wealth and value for shareholders. Entities with a minimum market capitalization of 5 billion rand at the 31st of August 2021 and a track record of 5 years trading from the 1st of September 2016 were included in this particular index. Selected companies that met the aforementioned criteria but are no longer listed on the JSE or have since had their shares suspended at the 31st of August 2021 were excluded from the analysis. The executive management of Arena Holdings have also considered certain subjective qualifying criteria relating to the top 100 companies' perceived compliance with good governance and ethical conduct. The results were compiled by Vestra Advisory and have been evaluated by Deloitte. Well, let's get into the numbers and unpack how much value these companies have essentially brought back to their shareholders. In third place, the third company returned 51,494 Rand to their shareholders. In second place, the company returned 68,879 Rand. And this year's top company returned 86,180 Rand. Well, you might be as excited as I am to find out just exactly which entities these are. Well, let's hear from them, the top 3 companies in alphabetical order.
I think in the past year, we have experienced a number of challenges as a business. We've had the challenge of COVID, and we had to really learn and set up systems and processes to become agile, to keep our people safe and keep our business going through this period of time. I think it was important for us to recognize that we are protecting lives and livelihoods in the process of working through COVID. I think we've also seen some significant operational challenges in this period of time. And I think this is where it is really exciting to think about the teams of people who we're working with. If we consider the operational challenges that we've had last year, how our teams has engaged with being agile, using technology and really focusing on their safety performance during this period and helping us to recover our operational performance while keeping our business now for 12 months, our own operations, fatal-free, which is a big target for us as a company. I think the other challenges that we need to consider is we are working in an industry that's got a limited resource. And despite all of these challenges that we're working and that we had to work through, we continue to make progress on really working on the efficiency at which we extract value from our ore bodies. And I think it's important to consider that the extraction of this value isn't only around the financial benefit to our stakeholders, but it's truly a balanced value between our financial stakeholders, shareholders, as well as society. I think we've spoken about how the team and how the asset that we have is really pivotal in our success. I think we need to just quickly consider where we came from. The team who came before us set up this business as a much simpler business. It is a restructured business, and we now have a number of high quality assets that doesn't only have more than a 50-year life, but it also has a suite of products that will allow us to play into any greener future. I think if we consider that with the amazing team of people we have, standing back to our purpose of reimagining mining to improve people's lives, I think it is really pivotal and leading in the mining industry to rethink what the purpose of mining is. And that purpose has led us through this period of COVID as well. I remember that last year when we had to take a decision on stopping, we didn't take a decision, we were forced to stop all of our operations. But thinking through how we set up our operations, looking after lives and livelihoods, guided through our purpose of reimagining mining to improve people's lives, we've not once had a real conversation around, do we have enough money to do this, despite huge uncertainty in the business? We've taken the right decision. We've looked after every one of our colleagues at work, and I think in the process, we've set ourselves up to be truly successful and deliver this balanced value to all of our stakeholders. I think the South African business climate is being seen as quite complex and uncertain. If we think about the questions our investors continuously ask us, it would be questions around policy certainty, it would be questions around energy reliability, it would be questions around how do we create a stable societal environment, both economically and politically, for us to be successful in our business. Our approach to this is collaborative. I think collaborating with the rest of the private sector, collaborating with government, with organised labour and with society, to understand how we, for starters, play a role in moving forward what the economic recovery in the country, and all of those aspects of around policy certainty comes to play. How do we engage with government to drive that forward? I think there's an important role that we're playing in engaging with our communities, and we've learned quite a number of important lessons over many years in how we engage with our communities. How do we truly listen, truly understand what they see as what sustainable livelihoods mean to them? Again, in the spirit of collaboration, really taking those views on board. Then closer to home, ensuring that we continue to maximize value out of our own assets. Because it doesn't matter how complex or uncertain the environment might be that we operate in, it's important for us to set up our business with a very stable foundation to weather any storm around us while collaborating with all of our stakeholders. I think to run a really successful company, it's important to have the right team on board, a team with the right capacity and capability to identify the challenges and the opportunities and set up a business for success. Secondly, we obviously need the right assets. And as I've referred to a little bit earlier, we are blessed to really have the world's best platinum assets with an integrated value chain that really gives us an opportunity to play into any future market. I think it's important to have a culture that creates an environment where every colleague can come to work every day doing his or her best work. And in the combination of this, I believe that we can take on any challenge to continue to live our purpose of reimagining mining to improve people's lives. I think Anglo Platinum, our assets, our people and our products has got a real role to play in the future of a better, greener and healthier future. Our product suite is a very young suite of products if you consider it in the bigger scheme of commodities. And it's got very unique capabilities and characteristics that plays into the world of the greener economy. I think with the assets we have, continuing to be at the bottom end of the cost curve, we will ensure that our asset remains sustainable through any cycle. With the people we have, our breakthrough thinking, the technology available to us, we will not only continue to develop the market our products can play in, but we will continue to play a fundamental role in a greener and a healthier future.
I would describe the culture as a culture that is informed around the principles of the spirit of Ubuntu. That is, I am because we are, and that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Building an inclusive culture is also exceptionally close to my heart. And at Kumba, we have aimed to create a really aspirational, creative, and inclusive culture where people feel like they can bring their real selves to work, thus resulting in the delivery of exceptional results. We have worked hard over the years to build a culture of excellence and creating space for people to flourish. And we also have a strong safety culture that has resulted in Kumba achieving over 5 years of fatality-free production. We also have a culture of collaborating with our stakeholders, and we believe that by working together with others, we can achieve greater things and create enduring value for all our stakeholders. What does it take? Ooh, yeah. I mean, I would say it starts with having a purpose. And our purpose is to reimagine mining to improve people's lives and being committed to ensuring beneficial coexistence with host communities and working collaboratively with our suppliers, communities, governments, and partners. Our value over volume strategy focuses on maximizing the value of our high-quality ore while optimizing logistical capacity, which has continued to pay off. We have seen our fair share of challenges from the pandemic and extreme weather conditions to logistical constraints. None of these are within our control. However, our operational resilience and ability to mitigate challenges successfully have continued to stand us in good stead. We have maintained a strong cost discipline, which has contributed to our EBITDA more than doubling from 20.6 billion rand in 2018 to 44.4 billion rand in the first half of this year. Having a disciplined capital allocation is one of our priorities. Despite the cyclical nature of our business, the operational and macro challenges and market volatility over the past few years, we've provided consistent returns to shareholders. And since 2018, we have returned more than 85% of headline earnings to shareholders, and dividends have increased threefold over this period. We are embracing technology to be more efficient and to build on our strength, which is a very high quality product with both high iron content and which is lumpy. Both these elements are in high demand from steel makers and are less polluting to turn into steel. The result is premium prices for premium products. Over and above this, we have a geographically diversified client portfolio, ensuring that we remain flexible and not dependent on certain markets. Finally, we are well positioned for the global transition towards carbon neutrality. Along with our initiatives to decarbonize and reduce our Scope 1 and Scope 2 carbon emissions, to address Scope 3, we are building partnerships with the steel industry to work collaboratively with our customers to achieve lower emission results. Yes, indeed, there's a magic formula. It's about recognizing that people are the differentiator and are essentially the business. This defines the leadership style that is required to create a culture of discretionary effort. It's all about having a clearly defined purpose that aligns everybody in the business in order to make a meaningful difference and guiding all decisions and actions. Our exceptional value is found in our people, our ore body and assets, our capabilities, as well as our sustainable returns. When it comes to COVID, everything that we have done thus far in response to this pandemic has been informed by our purpose through our We Care program, which is all about saving lives and safeguarding livelihoods. Kumba fully supports the role of vaccines in the fight against COVID-19, and we advocate in the strongest possible terms for them to be adopted. Our robust workplace vaccination program has clear goals which are firmly committed to achieving this. These are that 100% of our colleagues must be educated and well informed about vaccination. 100% of our colleagues are offered the vaccine and are enabled to easily access available vaccines and follow-up support. We are offering vaccinations and support across our operations through our team of highly skilled health professionals, and as a result, we aim for 100% of our colleagues who can vaccinate to do so. We have already extended our workplace vaccination program to include the dependents of every employee and contractor, as well as our mine communities. We cannot and will not deviate from vaccines and the role they play in creating a safer workplace, community, and nation. Pivotal moments. It has to be the fact that for the 5th year in a row, we've achieved 0 fatalities. And this is honoring the commitment that we have made to the families of our colleagues that their loved ones will return home each and every day without harm. This is a landmark achievement for the company and the South African mining industry. We also delivered a record first half performance as we continued to build momentum on a strong 2020 and despite challenging conditions. This operational resilience combined with strong iron ore demand saw us deliver a record EBITDA of 44 billion rand in the first half of this year. Our balance sheet strength combined with tight capital discipline allowed us to declare an interim dividend of 72 rand and 70 cents per share. And this is a 3-fold increase compared to last year. The strong business performance allowed us to pay 13 billion rand in royalties and taxes, thus making a significant contribution to the fiscus in a time when the economy was challenged. Also, the approval of our ultra-high dense media separation project, which will extend Sishen's life of mine to 2039 and further strengthen product quality, giving Kumba a leading edge in the global drive towards decarbonization.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to meet with you virtually. It's an honor to be recognized as one of the top 3 companies, and we wish we could conduct this interview in person. All of our operations within the United States are governed by U.S. law. U.S. law allows Montauk Renewables to operate as an essential business, and that allowed us to continue to operate throughout the pandemic. While we haven't experienced any material disruptions in our ability to continue business operations, we did experience disruptions due to pandemic-related delays in new facility commissionings or some facility maintenance activities. Throughout the pandemic, we enacted specific mitigation efforts to continuously protect our employees and our stakeholders and to support all appropriate health and safety protocols. In addition to the pandemic-related challenges that we all experienced this year, our operations were impacted by 2 extreme weather events in the last 12 months. In February 2021, our facilities in Texas were impacted by historical cold weather and production was idled for several days due to our facilities being without electricity. In October of 2020, our electric generation facility in California was idled for 34 days due to the California wildfires. Additionally, the political uncertainty surrounding the 2020 presidential election had changed the flow of information from the Environmental Protection Agency that we use to gauge our pricing expectations on our environmental attributes for renewable natural gas. The company has benchmarked its progress in traditional metrics of energy commodity production and renewable attribute generation, revenue, and EBITDA. The ability to achieve success in these metrics through good environmental stewardship is highly rewarding to the company. Montauk had a number of successes in 2021, coming out of the pandemic challenges and coming out specifically of the political uncertainty surrounding the 2020 presidential election. Montauk took the opportunity for the first time in the company's history to monetize its renewable natural gas production internationally through the achievement of ISCC International Sustainability and Carbon Certification registration of 3 of its renewable natural gas facilities, and then selling its product gas from those facilities in part into the European Union under the Renewable Energy Directive at a fixed price that was completely decoupled from the domestic attributes that we traditionally generate and monetize. During 2021, the company also completed its IPO and its successful listing on the NASDAQ. That has been a transformative event, not only for the company, but also for its stockholders. And also during 2021, the company announced its acquisition of NR3 as part of its continued expansion into the organic waste business. We successfully were granted a patent for our electric-powered, closed-loop, continuous feed, endothermic energy conversion system and methods technology. And we are so excited for the opportunity to use that technology to address the environmental concerns that have impacted underserved communities in North Carolina that have been particularly affected by the impacts of industrial swine agriculture. We are proud to have earned such a strong return for our stockholders over the years and remain more committed than ever to seek out, to evaluate, to deliver on opportunities that create compelling and responsible returns for our investors that benefit the environment.
Here are the top 3 companies. In third place, Anglo American Platinum. In second place, Montauk Renewables. And the Sunday Times Top 100 Company for 2021 goes to Kumba Iron Ore. Well, this certainly tells us that we have lots to look forward to when it comes to the resources space, especially given the value that they've been able to give back to their shareholders. Well, our guests aren't able to join us here this evening, but once again, we extend a hearty congratulations to Kumba Iron Ore.
This recognition is testament that Kumba is making a positive and visible impact to the lives of our people, our communities, and to South Africa broadly. It means we are creating enduring value and contributing to the economic empowerment of the Northern Cape and to the fiscus. This is all thanks to all of our employees, our contractors, and the various stakeholders that we've partnered with on this amazing journey. And I want to say thank you to the incredible people I have had the honor and the privilege to work with and lead in the last 5 years at Kumba. I thank you all.
Well, congratulations once again to Kumba Iron Ore, and of course all of our winners that have been announced here this evening. In the real world, many of us would have the opportunity to share a round of applause, whistle and ululate, but you can still do that and share your celebratory efforts with many of our winners, even in this virtual realm. Well, once again, I'd like to thank our partner, BCX, for making this evening possible. The Sunday Times Top 100 Companies special report will be available in your Sunday Times on Sunday, the 14th of November. And this is where you can gain more insight into who these companies, entities, and leaders are that continue to contribute so generously to South Africa's economy. Well, that does bring us to the end of the Sunday Times 2021 Top 100 Companies Awards evening. We'd like to thank you so much for watching, albeit from the comfort of your homes. But next year, South Africa's economic giants will be back celebrating together. Once more, a congratulations to all the finalists and winners who have been announced. From myself, Gugulethu Mfuphi, and the team, it's been a pleasure being with you this evening. Keep well and take care.